Hmm. So, Alex, uh, because it's in early afternoon, I'm drinking a screwdriver.
I got a haircut. Want to talk about theology?
Uh, that's a good non sequitur. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah,
Oh,
that's a
it
fun.
just you will. I mean, I just get it. I screwdrived it right in. That didn't work either.
That was.
Anyway,
So, what do
I
you want to talk about theology?
well, we
What's
were
up?
talking about a little bit earlier how the basis for all your understanding is, or how you know anything, is your epistemology. It's
Correct.
literally the theory
Right.
of knowledge, how you know, the study of how you know.
And that's a branch of philosophy.
But here's the interesting thing: is that you need a theology to move on to the rest of your philosophy.
No, you don't.
You do,
No, you don't. No,
because
you don't. No, no, you don't.
absolutely. Watch.
No, 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 no.
Stop. What?
I knew we
Because
were going to fight about this. Okay, go ahead.
let me lay
You
out
have
my
the floor.
case. Let
Lay,
me lay
lay,
out my
lay it out.
case.
Lay it out.
Because depending on your thoughts on God's existence
Mhm.
and his nature
Mhm.
determines your philosophy.
Mhm.
You really have to answer the question, does God exist? Yay or nay? And that has an incredible impact on your philosophy, and there being your thoughts on virtually every other subject.
Okay.
So you really do need to, even if you are a secular atheist person, you need to address the question, does God exist? If no, then okay, you can move on. You can proceed. If yes, he does exist, then you have to answer a couple other questions. Is God involved in our day-to-day activities? What is his nature? What is,
Mhm.
you know,
You do realize, of course, that you
that.
have already prejudiced any answer because of the way you have formulated the question. You have introduced God as a his.
Oh,
You,
I fully
you have.
recognize that. My
Okay.
my
Well, then,
toxic Christianity is
yeah.
spread all over.
Well,
It
why
was
don't you back
completely
up? Why don't
intentional.
you back up
Okay.
a little bit? Back up a little bit and degenderize poor God.
No,
Take
no, no.
God's. So does God have a penis? How big is God's
Is
penis?
that really how you
Does he
define
have the
men, by
biggest?
penises?
Well, this
That is that?
him, yeah,
Don't you
yeah.
define penises by manhood? Wow.
Hoist it on your own petard there, don't you? Yes, okay.
Well, I'm trying to figure out, are
So, how
men
big
defined
is God's
by
penis?
well, are men defined by their penis, or are penises defined by their men?
Both and. It's reciprocal. It's a reciprocal identity. Yeah.
The reason why I believe that God takes on the masculine form
Mm-hmm.
is because
That should be interesting. That
that's
should
how
be.
God reveals himself, both through the scriptures, which is a part of my epistemology.
Mhm.
The Bible is very much a part of my theory of knowledge.
Mhm.
So, because the Bible explains God to be masculine, that I refer to God as his preferred pronoun. You got a problem
So,
with that?
so in
I'm
other words,
using
yeah, I
him.
do. So if all the translators had translated God as a her, then you would be telling me that God is a her, and it was her this, her that, her this,
Well, I
her
mean,
that.
if
So,
unicorns
so
existed,
you're
we could
just
all have free healthcare.
you're just
So, I'd like
going
to also point.
according to some translations by old dead people that had translated it with the masculine pronoun, and
Well,
so you're this is in front
I'm
of
also
right?
going by
And you call this
by
an
the church.
epistemology?
I'm also
You
going
call
by the
this?
church traditions. I'm also going by
Of course
ancient
they
texts that
do.
have lasted
Well, of
since
course
zero
they can't be
AD.
wrong. Well,
I
they
mean,
can't be wrong, can they? No, they can't be wrong. Church traditions. No, that can't be.
well,
No,
okay, okay. I mean, if they're able to
no,
be
no, no.
accurate in
And you
so
call
many
yourself
different
a
ways,
philosopher? You call yourself a philosopher?
absolutely, I do. If they're able to
Ah,
be
I,
accurate in so many ways, are you
and you
telling
call
me
this
that?
an epistemology?
Wait. Are you telling
Uh,
me that people who wrote the Bible, the one slip up is that they just couldn't figure out, they just couldn't translate the pronoun of God. Oh man, it just slipped their mind how to
just
properly
getting
translate.
started. I'm just getting started
All right,
on the
well, keep going because you're going to need a lot of gas to get through this.
There's no, there, I don't know where you learned your philosophy, probably from some hippie professor at Silly College. Anyway, I know you didn't take my class in philosophy, so
Mm.
I can't, I'm not responsible for your sloppy
Well,
epistemology.
I would like to ask you though, where does your epistemology start? Or
It
where's
starts with the question, how do I know? What do I know? And how is what I know distinct from what I believe? You see, the problem with your argument is that you conflate belief with knowing. You claim to take the scriptures as part of an epistemology that you know. You're not drilling down very, very deep on that. And I think you really need to look at that because that's not a workable epistemology. You can claim that you believe in God because you've read the scriptures. That's perfectly legitimate. Nobody,
It can't be
nobody
the
can
other.
object. Nobody can object to that. Okay, but you cannot say that you know that God exists because you've read the scriptures and
No, no,
because
no, 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 no. I'm not talking about God's existence. I'm talking about his nature.
no, you first of all started out by saying that you have to solve the question of God's existence before you can proceed in your philosophy. I have you on tape saying that.
No, no,
Okay,
you
so
you do. What you have me on tape saying is that I referred to God as a he,
right.
and that's specifically in reference to
Drink.
God's nature. That's not a question of God's existence. That's a question of God's nature. By me referring to God as a he, I've already accepted the premise that God exists, and so on, so on. And I'm also
You're
going.
begging the question. Your epistemology begs the question, and the reason it does is because you believe in God. So of course you have confirmation bias.
Well, I mean, there's only so much that any human being can. I mean, nobody is really born with a set epistemology. To a certain degree, you kind of have to invent it yourself, unless you want to be a clone and just take somebody else, just copy and paste someone else's epistemology. But that's just lazy.
No, I disagree with you entirely. When a child, as soon as a child is born, even before a child is born, in the womb, a child gathers the basic elements of what I would like to call a sensual epistemology. In other words, the five senses: seeing, smelling, tasting, and touching. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the basis of the beginning of any epistemology is what we can gather, the information we can gather, the
Right.
data, if you want, that we get from the world. We
Right.
know that our mother is affectionate to us, or we don't know that she's affectionate to us, and so forth and so on. So as a child progresses and becomes more aware of a consciousness, until they finally get to aware of being aware, which is the highest level of consciousness, then the child is ready to contemplate your question. Is there a God?
Mhm.
Not does God exist? And then
So you're saying that there's a difference between asking the question, does God exist, and is there a God?
That's correct.
How so?
Well, in addition to the difference of grammar and syntax, asking the question, does God exist, presumes a yes or no answer.
So you're saying that there can be a third option, God sort of exists?
Yeah, that the question itself is defective.
Are you going agnostic on me?
No. I'm
Boo-boo.
just saying, you asked me if there was a third alternative, and there is. And
it's not agnosticism?
No, it's not agnosticism. No. It's
So
it simply is saying that the question is irrelevant. It's like saying, do leprechauns exist?
well, I would disagree with you because leprechauns existing, whether they do or not, doesn't have. If leprechauns turned out to existed, I don't think that would change my fundamental beliefs. But if God turned out to not exist, that would radically alter my principles and my beliefs and everything else.
You cannot know that God either exists or does not exist.
Well, same thing with leprechauns.
I'm only used the leprechauns to bring you to this point to realize that you cannot maintain that you can either know that God exists, the point of the theist, and you cannot conversely know the opposite case for the atheist.
So what? Oh, okay. So what you're saying is that by attaching theology right next to epistemology, you get all touchy-feely because epistemology is about knowing, whereas theology is more about believing. Is that why you're getting all
theology is more about psychology?
Sensitive? Oh, don't you go all postmodern? Boo-boo.
Psychology is more theology. Yeah. What we are inclined to.
You think that theology should be replaced with psychology, or what?
No. Theology is an experiment. Is an experiment in psychology. because none of the predicates of psychology, like theology, can be demonstrated empirically. There are no there are no crazy atoms. There are no psychotic atoms. There's no ego or id atoms or neurons in the brain.
Well, I
You
mean,
can't cut out the brain and say, "Oh,
well,
there's the ego."
we're gonna have to go back a little bit because modern psychologists would disagree with you and say it can be empirically verified. So it sounds like you're operating on a very different uh, syllabus or lexicon when it comes to
Yeah.
psychology. So why don't you define psychology? Man, we're going through so many
Well,
different fields.
psychology is a
We're just
breakaway
floating
discipline
past.
from philosophy. Psychology is a breakaway discipline from philosophy. So is theology, by the way. So is theology. First came myth. Let's rewind the Western civilization tape. If you go all the way back, rewind the tape to the first inklings of humans considering that there's something more to this world than what we can experience with the senses. Okay? So, who were the first people to bridge that gap and to project that there is some transcendent world that does not?
I mean, you want me to say the Greek philosophers, but it goes way beyond, way before them. I mean, people.
Yeah, the Greek, the
I mean,
pre-Socratic.
I think we should credit them with giving a popular methodology to it,
Right.
because spirituality has existed, and
Well,
belief
before
in
we can even get to spirituality, we have to rewind the tape. The first philosophers that reached beyond mythology, and actually myth is an attempt at a theology. The gods of Olympus,
Mhm.
they're anthropomorphic. They're vengeful. They're jealous. They're sexual.
they're a little paradoxical too.
But they're also psychological. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
So this is the connection I'm trying to make with you: is that theology has its feet in psychology, not philosophy. Philosophy can only get you so far. It can't ever get you to theology. You can argue, or say Thomas Aquinas tried this in the 13th century. If you'll notice the so-called five proofs for the existence of God, they're not proofs. At the end of each proof, he says, "And this we call God."
Mhm.
Not this thus prove the existence of God. You can't. You can't.
Right.
It's like proving that Zeus exists, okay, or Poseidon exists.
And it certainly doesn't prove anything about God's nature, or
Right.
you can't make any statements with Thomas Aquinas's proofs for the existence of God.
So, from the very early beginnings of Western civilization, there has been a continuous trajectory to find out the essence of everything.
Mhm.
Anaximenes, Thales.
A theory of everything, sort of.
No, yeah, exactly. Thales, for instance, believed that everything is basically water. And Anaximander said, no, 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 it's not water, it's fire. And Anaximenes said, no, 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 it's air. So these are called the atomists,
Mhm.
the early pre-Socratic atomists. And this is the first inkling of philosophy.
Mhm. Systematic philosophy.
Right. And then we come to the Apeiron. Then we come to Anaximander. I'm sorry,
A
Anaximenes.
salamander?
Anaximenes. When he says that you're all wrong. It's not fire. It's not air. It's not water. It is the
Ouch.
it is the indeterminate thing. It is that which cannot be apprehended by the senses. Bingo. Metaphysics is born at that particular point in time. All that Socrates and Plato do is that they connect the dots between this indeterminate substance of existence and mathematics.
I also want to walk back a little bit further and say that I believe that humans earlier, before these nice gentlemen, believed in these sort of things,
They weren't so nice.
but they weren't able to, or they weren't able to,
Yeah.
huh?
They weren't so nice. I mean, Socrates was.
Yes, okay. These old white guys. Well, before they came up with all these ideas, I think that there were human beings that also came up with these ideas, but they either didn't spread this knowledge around via writing or whatnot, or they didn't. I also didn't make it systematic. As the Greek philosophers, what makes them they were able to write and spread their ideas, and they were also able to have a methodology. So you could at least apply it to different ideas as well. And
they had a system. They had a system.
Yeah, they had a system in place. That's what really made them rock their socks.
Right. But if you go back beyond the atomists, you get into idolatry. The earliest human references to a theology or a God system or a God set goes back to ideology, where people actually worship
paganism,
physical statues,
animalism.
Yeah.
They'd worship the god, the tree, the god in the tree.
And the reason for this is because, and I've often said this, and I get quite a reaction when I do say it. Theology is whistling past the grave, and that's why I say it's rooted in psychology more than in philosophy. What theology does is it gives us a way to project a perfected world that does not exist in this material world. And it gives us a great deal of satisfaction if we can do this. If I can imagine a heaven somewhere that doesn't ever change, and I'm always happy,
and
I have
and you don't know how it's perfect, but it's perfect.
It's perfect. That's so psychologically gripping and galvanizing that say, well, now if there's a set of codicils or commandments attached to me getting that prize, hey, I'm going to sign up for that. Okay, so I'll worship my my God. I won't take the name of the Lord in vain. I'll honor my father and my mother. I won't steal. I won't lie. I won't kill. I won't covet my neighbor's wife. The hag anyway. All right. Everybody's had her. I don't want her. She's a whore. And I won't covet my neighbor's house in Hope Ranch and his 15 Mercedes Benzes. I won't do that. If I can get perfect heaven. So that's why I say religion promises us something that we cannot ever achieve here while we are in this Shakespearean mortal coil.
Well, the inevitable question I have to ask is, who is promising you this?
It's self-generated. We strive to seek perfection even in our material world. That's why we work harder. That's why when we fail in a project, we go back to the drawing board and we try to make it better. So it's in the human DNA. It's in our nature to strive for perfection. So why not create a perfect world to believe in, ruled over by a perfect being?
Well, just because it fulfills your expectations, or your fantasies, or your whatever, there's still a couple holes that I can't quite get past. For example, not everyone embraces this. You've met some really, really. We both have met some atheists and some completely secular people that really have made up their own kind of world, and you might as well make up a religion if you're just going to make up a perfect fantasy, with a perfect afterlife and all that. Right. But if anything, I would say that they don't do that, since they're trying to run away from reason and reality, and they embrace that sort of psychological want. They kind of create a secular paradise utopia in their mind that has nothing to do with God. So, it's not necessarily excluded to theology. It's more isolated to psychology.
I didn't say it was unique to theology to use psychological pursuit of perfection in order to form a belief system. Marxism, for instance, is right. The utopia of the working class. It's a religion. So is climate change. That's a religion, right? So
It's,
is
yeah.
identity politics, which we talked about last night. That's a religion. Social justice. There can never be social justice on this world. There cannot be equality among human beings. There's no such thing as equity, but go to every college and they're working hard to find it.
Any day
They've
now.
got committees and they've got rooms and lounges and they've got battalions of psychologists to hold your hand when you fart or blow
So-
your nose.
So
it's
it really
disgusting.
doesn't seem like your complaint is so much theological or against any particular theology or religion. It's more against a mindset, a human mindset.
No, it's more about I have no objection to believing in God. In fact, I myself believe in God. But I don't believe in the cheap Kmart special, blue light special kinds of gods that are out there on sale every Saturday at Costco. You know, get a big jar of God. A 19
50% off.
Yeah, 50%. Get two for the price of one.
But 2%.
Well, 53, like the Trinity. You know,
Or if you're Hindu, it's buy 5 million for the price of one.
Oh, no, the Hindus, they gotta, boy, when they have a sale on gods, you better get down there quick.
It's the Costco of gods. Forget Kmart, it's Costco. You buy your gods wholesale.
That is so funny. That is so funny.
But
I have to shut my phone off here. I'm getting a solicitation call from somebody. Anyway,
not God.
no, God, no, God. God texts me. He doesn't. He never uses email, and certainly doesn't use my cell
Oh, I only get emails from him. So
Okay.
emails
phone. Email.
with a K.
I understand. I
So
understand.
what time are we at?
Took a lot of time with these, by the way.
I-
Well,
do we?
Right. we're done with this. We're done. We're gonna have to revisit this. So let's bring this home. Let's
right.
agree that there's a distinction between knowing God and believing. Would you accept that?
Well, I think that's a discussion for another. That's not the conclusion we came to do in this particular podcast. The conclusion that we've drilled down on is that you really do need to be very careful about your belief system, even if it's secular.
I know.
If you are believing what you believe out of want because you're jacking off or whatever, or because you really honest to goodness believe that this is reality.
So on that we agree. But when we discuss this again, let's pick up on the distinction between
If we can
knowledge-
stay focused, absolutely. Folks,
Well,
thank you so
we're
much.
two nutcrackers, so
I
you
know. Don't
so-
forget to subscribe on YouTube
Oh,
and
please hit
iTunes.
the subscribe button.
Did we
You're
say
all
subscribe?
They're all looking at our videos and our podcast, but nobody's hitting the subscribe button. That's how
Oh.
we become.
It's
you
okay.
know,
We'll forgive
more
you. Hit the share button too. Then you
Yeah.
can that'll how you will make amends for this
Mhm.
dreadful sin that you have committed against
Right.
us.
Go in peace and sin no more.
Amen.
Billy and Black all together.
See,
Bye.
what is up with you?
I don't know. I have to